You're watching the Storybox TV. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Lagos never pauses long enough for grief. The traffic still groaned. The street vendors still shouted. Danfo conductors still leaned halfway out of buses, screaming destinations like they were summoning spirits. Tunde moved through it all quietly. 3 years had passed since the robbery. 3 years since Philip died on hot concrete under flashing police lights. 3 years since headlines turned his family into a spectacle. Now Tunde wore clean shirts and carried hospital procurement files instead of guilt heavy enough to choke him. He worked at Mainland General Hospital as a procurement officer, overseeing supplies, managing vendor contracts, ensuring the wards never ran out of gloves, oxygen, sutures. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. His mother had recovered from her transplant. Her hair had grown back thicker than before. Sometimes she laughed loudly again, like she used to before sickness hollowed her. Life had stabilized, but not healed. At night, when the generators hummed through the neighborhood and darkness pressed against the windows, Tunde sometimes replayed the last moment he saw Philip alive. Philip had been nervous, too nervous. Tunde hadn't noticed then. Now he noticed everything. He noticed men who watched too long, cars that slowed near the hospital gate, news stories about armored van robberies increasing again across Lagos. He told himself it was paranoia. He wanted peace. Peace, however, rarely lasts in Lagos. The break, Keme did not escape prison in chaos. There were no explosions, no helicopters, no viral footage. His release was paperwork, a transfer order forged within a web of influence, a guard reassigned, one signature at a time. By the time Kirikiri officials realized something was wrong, Keme was gone, already sheltered inside a quiet duplex in Lekki Phase 1, wearing linen shirts and reading financial newspapers like a businessman between meetings. He stayed invisible. No flashy cars, no club appearances, no old crew gatherings. He rebuilt carefully. He studied. He watched the economy. Election season was approaching again. Money would be moving. And money always needed shadows. This time, he would not be seen. He would orchestrate. The armored van attack happened at 9:17 a.m. on a humid Thursday. Victoria Island. Traffic was thick. The van was moving between a commercial bank and a currency processing center. 2 escort vehicles. 4 armed police. The attackers struck with surgical precision. A delivery truck blocked the lane. 2 bikes boxed in the rear. Gunfire erupted within seconds. Automatic bursts shattered windshields. Pedestrians dove behind kiosks. 7 people died in less than 3 minutes. The attackers vanished before reinforcements arrived. It was efficient, professional, brutal, and it worked. But something went wrong. As one of the gunmen attempted to mount the getaway bike, a responding police cruiser rammed forward, panicked and reckless. The impact threw the gunman beneath the vehicle. His skull cracked against asphalt. Unconscious, bleeding. Police arrested him on the scene. He was rushed to Mainland General Hospital under heavy guard. Update. In silence. His jaw tightened. "Which one?" he asked. "Emeka," one of his lieutenants replied. Keme exhaled slowly. "Does he know names?" A pause. "Yes." Keme's eyes hardened. "Then we finish it." Recognition. The police presence at the hospital was impossible to ignore. 2 patrol cars outside the emergency ward. Armed officers stationed at the ICU entrance. Tunde noticed immediately. He was reviewing oxygen supplier invoices when he overheard nurses whispering. "Armed robbery suspect. 7 people died. Police escort massacre." His chest tightened. Not again. He forced himself to stay detached. This was not his world anymore. He delivered requisition forms to the administrative wing near dusk. The sun bled orange through hospital windows. As he stepped outside toward the staff parking lot, something made him pause. Across the street, a black SUV, engine idling, windows tinted, still, too still. He would have walked past, he almost did, but the driver's window lowered slightly, just enough. A familiar profile, sharper now, older, but unmistakable. Keme, alive, free, watching. The air left Tunde's lungs. For a moment, the world muted. Voices blurred. Keme's gaze shifted lazily across the hospital entrance, calculating, measuring security, studying patterns. Then their eyes met. It lasted half a second. Keme did not flinch. He did not react. But something in his expression flickered. Recognition. Then the SUV pulled away smoothly, merging into traffic like nothing had happened. Tunde stood frozen. Philip's body flashed in his mind. Blood pooling, sirens screaming, Keme's voice during interrogation years ago. "You think this was about money?" Rage flooded back, hot and violent. But beneath it was something colder. Understanding. The unconscious gunman upstairs. Keme would not risk exposure. He would eliminate the problem. And this time, it would happen in a hospital. Alliances. Inspector Danladi had aged. The transfer out of Lagos had buried him in paperwork for years. But corruption leaves scars that never fully heal. When Tunde called, Danladi listened without interrupting. "We're sure?" he asked quietly. "I saw him," Tunde replied. "He's out." Silence. That means someone bigger moved him. They met that night in a quiet bar in Surulere. Danladi's eyes were sharp again. "I've been tracking irregularities," he admitted. "Election funds moving through shell NGOs, insurance payouts inflated. Same pattern as before." "Keme?" "Yes." "And the sponsor?" Danladi leaned closer. "This time, international observers are watching campaign financing. If we get proof tying violent funding to him, it won't be buried." Tunde's jaw tightened. "He's going to kill that man in the hospital." "Then we don't wait." They devised a plan. No rogue gunfight, no reckless heroics. They would let Keme move, but they would control the ground. Danladi quietly arranged additional plainclothes officers. Security camera feeds were rerouted. The unconscious gunman was moved from ICU to a monitored isolation ward under the guise of medical necessity. Only a handful of trusted officers knew. Tunde stayed inside the hospital, watching, waiting. He felt it building. The city felt tense, like before a storm. The hospital night. Keme did not rush. He observed patterns for 2 days, shift changes, guard fatigue, camera blind spots. He wore patience like armor. On the third night, rain fell, heavy and loud, perfect cover. At 10:42 p.m., a fire alarm triggered in the pediatric wing. Not explosive, just smoke. Controlled, small enough to cause confusion. Security diverted, nurses scrambled. Amid the noise, 2 men dressed as medical waste contractors entered through the service elevator. They moved with calm precision. Silenced pistols, hidden blades. Keme watched from his SUV outside, monitoring through an encrypted earpiece. Inside, Tunde felt something shift. Too much movement. Too coordinated. He excused himself from procurement logs and walked toward the isolation wing. A nurse ran past him. Fire alarm malfunction. But the smoke didn't smell like electrical burn. It smelled staged. Tunde reached the ward corridor. 2 guards were down, unconscious but breathing. The hospital lights flickered. He heard footsteps approaching. Low, measured, not hospital staff. He ducked into a supply room just as 2 men passed, weapons drawn. Room. Tunde's heart pounded violently. He could run. He could hide. He could call Danladi and wait. But Philip's face surfaced again. He stepped out. Quiet. He grabbed a metal IV stand. As one attacker opened the ward door, Tunde swung. The metal pole connected with the man's wrist. Gun clattered to the floor. The second attacker turned, firing. Bullet tore into the wall beside Tunde's head. Chaos erupted. Police stationed in adjacent corridors responded immediately. Gunfire exploded through sterile hospital air. Patients screamed. Lights shattered. One attacker fell. The other retreated down the hall. Outside, Kemi's jaw tightened. "Abort," he ordered. But retreat came too late. Sirens converged. Danladi's voice crackled through police radio. "Seal the exits." Kemi realized something critical. They had expected him, and then he saw it. Across the parking lot. Rain. Tunde. Standing. Watching. Kemi stepped out of the SUV. He could leave. Disappear again. But ego is a dangerous thing. He walked forward instead. Confrontation. Rain hammered the pavement. Police lights painted the hospital walls red and blue. Danladi emerged from a patrol vehicle, gun drawn. Kemi stopped. Hands relaxed at his sides. "You're persistent, Inspector. You should have stayed gone." Kemi smiled faintly. "You think this ends anything?" Tunde stepped forward. "You killed my brother." Kemi's eyes shifted to him. "Your brother killed himself the moment he hesitated." Rage surged through Tunde. Danladi raised his voice. "Drop to your knees." Kemi laughed softly. "You still think this is about robbery?" Police units closed in, weapons trained. Rain mixed with sweat on Tunde's face. "You moved election money through blood," Danladi said. "We have the transfer trails." For the first time, Kemi's composure flickered. International attention had changed the game. He assessed options. No clean escape. No political shield arriving in time. Sirens multiplied. Media vans in the distance. This was bigger. He reached slowly toward his waistband. Officers tensed. "Kemi," Danladi shouted. But Kemi drew fast. Gunfire cracked. 3 shots. Police responded instantly. Kemi staggered, dropped to one knee, then collapsed. Rain washed blood into the gutter. He stared upward, almost peaceful. Then nothing. Exposure. Kemi's death changed everything. The surviving attacker inside the hospital talked. Financial documents recovered from safe houses confirmed shell organizations tied to a prominent political sponsor. Election observers flagged irregular overseas transfers. International banking authorities froze accounts. At an airport lounge, attempting to travel abroad. This time, it could not be buried. Too many eyes. Too much digital evidence. The story went global. But Lagos moved on as it always does. Weeks later, Tunde stood outside the hospital again. Traffic roared. Vendors argued. Life pulsed forward. Danladi approached him. "It's done," he said. Tunde nodded slowly. "Is it?" Danladi looked at the city skyline. "For now." Philip's name was cleared publicly. No longer a greedy insider, but a man caught in machinery larger than himself. Tunde felt no triumph, only quiet. He had not avenged. He had ended. There was a difference. As the sun dipped over Lagos, he understood something deeper. Crime was never just about greed. It was about systems that allowed desperation to become currency. About men who believed they could control fate. About silence that protected power. But silence had broken everything. Tunde walked into the noise of the city. Not healed, not whole, but free. Because in Lagos, tragedy never stops the city. It becomes traffic. It becomes rumor. It becomes history. And sometimes, if someone refuses to look away, it becomes change.